Hello, my name is Horrorama, and today I have found 4 dangerous encounters people have experienced with mysterious entities such as demons, jinn, and ghosts, and I will be narrating them here. But before we begin, I wanted to ask that if you end up enjoying my narrations, then please do consider liking and subscribing, as that really does help the channel a lot. And also, I have just created a Reddit community meant for sharing and discussing creepy, scary, and dangerous experiences that you wish to be narrated on this channel. If you decide to contribute, then I would be very thankful. You can find a link to this community in the description below. But without any further ado, let's get into the narrations. The first story is posed by user burnt_autopod. Me and my friend might have come across a skinwalker. I really don't know what I saw, but I just want to know if we are going crazy or if this was a real encounter. So we were all walking in the woods about to smoke something. We get to our spot and light up. Everything was completely normal. We were listening to music and talking. I don't think smoke has any effect on this, as it wasn't really anything strong or anything like that. Something I think is important to mention is that one of my friends, let's call him Fred, whistles a lot, and he did so this night, but only twice. As we were about to get done, Fred wanted to walk further into the woods. It was about 11:30 at night at that time. Very dark and very sketchy. There were 2 girls with us who did not want to walk any further. Fred told them, okay, we will see you in 20 or 30 minutes. And so me, Fred, a male, we'll say Sam, and a female, Carol, continued to walk. As we walk, everything was okay. The path was slim and it was a bill to the right and water to the left. We walked for a good 6 to 10 minutes until we came up to a fallen tree, which was pretty big. We talked about turning around, and so we did. Fred, not having or something, runs back to the 2 girls we left, Anna and Sarah, so it's me, Sam, and Carol. I pick up the pace because I didn't know Sam nor Carol, and I was low-key nervous. This is when it started. When I could no longer see Fred nor hear Sam and Carol talking, the exact same whistle Fred had done before, same pitch and same length, went off 3 times in a row, repeatedly. I thought it was just Fred messing with me at first, but it was coming from such a hard left and so far away. I thought he would not go that far out to prank me like that. The whistle does not stop, never less or more than 3, and maybe a 5-second pause in between. I started to run as soon as I caught up to Fred, Anna, and Sarah. It stopped. Anna and Sarah immediately brought up the whistle noise. That's when I started to flip. I thought, no way that they were hearing it as well, and only when they are alone as well, because I only heard it when Fred ran and I picked up the pace and left Sam and Carol behind. When Sam and Carol meet up, they mention the whistling too. This had all of us in a state of shock. We all sat in silence, and that's when it started. 3 whistles and a pause. We booked it back to the car so fast, but we had to still take a break halfway there because 2 people in the group had asthma, but when we stopped, we could still hear the whistle in the distance. It stopped for a split second, Then, in the brush right next to us, we hear something massive moving. This is when we sprinted to the cars with no brakes. We made it to the car and left immediately. But we all talked about how we all only heard it when we were alone, all at different times, in different spots of the trail. And more importantly, Fred was the only person to not hear the entire time. And it was his whistle we were hearing. Does anyone know what this could have been? Was it just an animal or something? I feel like whatever it was hoping one of us would call out or look for it. The next story is posed by user Varulven94. I don't know what it was. I am a logger in northern British Columbia, Canada. I am an avid hunter and have spent many a night hunting alone. That being said, quite a few years ago I was working on a broken down skidder in the dark after everyone on the logging block was gone, changing a blown hydraulic hose under the cab when I felt like I was being watched. The feeling continued to get worse and worse, so I was on the edge and continued to work on replacing the blown hose. Every trip for tools to the service truck and back, I would scan for eyes in a nearby tree line about 25 meters away with my flashlight. But nothing. I continued to work on the annoying hose that you literally have to dive your head and upper body under the cab to reach, and so your legs are stuck up in the air and feeling very vulnerable. The feeling of being watched gets more intense because of this. All the hairs on my neck are standing, and I hear a two-tone whistle from far away, almost like the wind. It was so far away, but it was flat calm that day. Also, there was about 6 inches of fresh snow on the ground. I pushed myself out from under the skidder and looked around quietly with a flashlight for eyes in the tree line and down the road. But nothing. I had one side of the hose fitting to remove still, and it was the easier side and higher up, so I wasn't in such a bad position while removing it. I put my head back under the cab and quickly began to spin the fitting loose. The feeling of being watched was so bad, every hair on my body was standing. And then I hear the exact same two-tone whistle very loudly in the tree line directly behind me. I had the hose off at that exact time, so I whipped myself out from under the cab and turned ready to throw down with a wrench in my hand, yelling at whatever it was. But again, nothing. No one there. No tracks, no eyes, no wind, nothing. The flashlight I had was more of a small floodlight for working on repair stuff, so it didn't light up inside the trees. The next day it had snowed another 6 inches or so, but I went and hiked the tree line with a 12 gauge and a few slugs ready to go. No tracks that I could see, no perches on the trees where the snow has been pushed off, if whatever this was a bird. Nothing. A few years later though, I was out hunting with a friend when we lost legal light, so we hiked back to the truck and hit the road in his parents' new Ford half-ton, the ones with the sensors all over the vehicle. We had some music playing as we were just heading back towards town again, when the music started acting weird and cutting in and out with static. So me being in the passenger seat, disconnected the Bluetooth and reconnected the phone. Music cleared up and we continued down the road. We got up to the kilometer board on the road that my previous encounter took place, and I mentioned, "Oh hey, that's the whistle block that we logged a couple years back." half jokingly because I couldn't make heads or tails of it. My friend replied with, "Great, thanks for that," as I had told him the story before. We continued slowly driving down the road, because it gets pretty rough in a couple of spots, and the road has a few sharp turns and an S-bend. Well, we go about a kilometer further, and the music starts screeching and doing whatever we can describe as alien noises. So I disconnect the Bluetooth again, and my friend says, "Oh, Mom's got a cord in there." So he stops and gets the cord for me. I plug the phone in and play the music again. Another kilometer down the road, and the phone goes crazy. I mean, loud, alien squealing sounds, similar to that dial-up internet music from the 90s. We had started into the S-bend when this was happening, and we shut off the music completely as we were driving still, making the one half of the S-turn, and then we both look up from the music screen and the headlights illuminate a figure standing in the middle of the road. So we swerve and take the ditch a bit, still going about 30 kilometers per hour, I'd say, and get the truck back up the road. We continue coasting down the road as we are both in awe after just a flash of this thing. I finally say, after what seemed like 5 minutes, "Did you see that?" My friend cuts me off and says, "A skeleton in the middle of the road?" Yeah, like a white ribcage and a deer skull for a face. Wait, maybe we need to turn around, because what was that? Does someone need our help? Not thinking that we are in the middle of nowhere, with no vehicles around, or any of that we had from our past hunters. It was early season, and no one bow hunts here anyways. My friend replied, "I'm not turning around. I feel sick, like I'm going to throw up." And so we continued driving. We didn't see another vehicle until we hit pavement again. It was taller than the pickup by easily a couple of feet. I'm 6'1", and my forehead is at the top of the window for reference. It has black surrounding the white of the bones, with long arms half stretched to its sides, as if it was saying, "Try and hit me." I watched this thing pass the passenger window and stared up at it as we wailed by it. And it was definitely three-dimensional, tall, with long arms, and dark. Dead-looking even. Like light was sucked into it without reflecting anything. It's really hard to explain. When we hit service again, my friend received a text message from his mother saying, "What did you two idiots hit in my brand new truck?" I guess the new Fords send near accident reports to the owner when the sensors pick up something. I'm not sure. I'm an old school Chevy guy, so yeah. The only thing I can find online that resembles whatever we saw is a Wendigo, without the antlers though. Or the headlights didn't illuminate any anyways. The next story is posed by user Google Please Stop. So, this is a second-hand account, coming from a close friend who has given me no reason to doubt them. The main event happened on February 27th, 2023. My friend was driving home from work and passing down my country road, sometime between 5 p.m. and 5:59 p.m. Less than a mile from my house, at the end of my township, within 100 feet of the closest house, he saw an unknown creature. It was at the edge of the road, as if it were about to pass. It was pitch black, very furry, had a bobbed tail, and the face of a pit bull. I could see its jowls, is what he said. It had dog-like ears, slender but muscular, and was standing on all fours. When it saw me, it paid no attention to me, but slowly turned around and leapt back into the woods. When it leapt, it jumped like a frog. Its legs were turned out just like frogs. It was appropriately the size of a Great Dane on all fours. He was uncertain if it had human feet, and couldn't identify much else. Where he reported to have seen it is in a wooded area, right beside a small bayou, and there is a notable nook that leads off into the woods, right around where he saw it. The very same night after he saw it, I heard strange noises around midnight, akin to something climbing a wooden structure, thuds, and the sound of wood bowing. Side events, possibly unrelated. 6 or so years ago, I saw something strange lead between one section of woods to another, across a highway about a half-mile from my home. It was black, hairy, and ape-like at a glimpse. About 3 years ago, me and my wife heard a tapping on the window behind us around midnight. We laughed about it at first, but my cousin from across the street called me moments later and said, "There's something big in your yard. I could hear it running through your yard. It's in the woods now." We investigated and heard it rustling through the trees but never saw it. The next morning, outside the window that was tapped on, was a large, humanoid footprint, barefoot. To tap on the glass would require something to stand up, upright, at least 5 feet minimum, given the lifted foundation. About 3 years ago, me and a buddy were hanging out, and we saw something strange walking to my cousin's yard across the street. It was large, black and furry. It was walking on all fours, and appeared like a pig at first glance. We scoped in on it and couldn't determine what it was. It had a dog-like snout, but the stature and build of a hog. It was about the size of a large hog, or perhaps a large bear cub. I don't remember it having a tail, but it sniffed around his house, circled it, and went back into the woods. About a year ago, I was driving at night from the far end of my road. There's a curve approximately a half-mile from where my friend reported seeing this creature. In the curve, as I blanked a bit, my headlights shined into the woods and revealed eye shine, about 6 feet off the ground. I stopped the car next to where the eye shine was to examine it. I didn't see anything else, but the smell of rotting meat flooded the car, and I promptly left. About a year ago, I was outside around midnight when I heard a strange noise in my cousin's yard. I shined a flashlight over there and caught some eye shine at average height from the ground. It looked at me and kept walking into the woodline. In my experience, if you spotlight something and can see its eye shine, they stop and stare at you. This thing kept going, but watched me the whole time. I continued to shine into the woodline for a bit longer, and it returned, about 15 feet down the woodline. It stared at me from within the woods, and turned around. I continued to shine my light, and caught it one more time in the same place as the second encounter. It looked at me for a moment, and turned away. I didn't see the eye shine again. At the time I had an eerie feeling that it seemed to be sentient, not the way a deer or a hog feels, if you get what I'm talking about. Maybe more so a big cat, but no normal woodland critter from around here. Bonus event, probably unrelated. For the past 2 weeks, my entire property has reeked of skunk. Our house gets sprayed from time to time by local skunks, but the smell usually dissipates after 2 days. This time, it's almost been 2 weeks and the smell is still pungent, even out on the road by my house. My home seems to be the epicenter, but the smell extends around 100 yards around my home and all directions. All of these instances were just strange coincidences until my friend saw this creature yesterday. Now, I'm not ruling them out as possible encounters with this creature. Any and all guesses to the nature of this, whatever it is, are appreciated. The next story has been posed by user wacky_paleontologist. My grandpa says he fought a cryptid once. This history is not mine, but it's still a paranormal encounter. Hi, you may call me Joe. I'm 16 years old. My grandpa always tells me histories from his youth. Most of them are pretty funny, since he was always some sort of prankster. But this one is the only one that my grandpa seemed tense and scared while talking about. He says that when he was 16 years old, he and my great-grandpa were hunting and fishing some animals for dinner and also for selling it at the market. It was something they would do often, when they were not taking care of their crops at least. He told me it was about 11 p.m. when they were coming back home, until he and my great-grandpa started feeling weird. He says it felt like when you get drunk, but you still have some control over yourself. It did not take much time until they heard a disturbing noise. He couldn't describe it really well, but said that it sounded like a mix of a pig in distress and a human scream. Then, seconds after, something ran towards them and tried to snatch the meat they were gathering. His description was this. It had 4 limbs, 2 arms and 2 legs. It could walk both on its fores and on its hind legs. The torso was long, and it was big as a cow. The face was also long. It had a pointy snout. The teeth looked like those of a dog. My great-grandpa then pulled the meat sack to his side, making sure the creature let it go. It then bit my great-grandpa's arm, which gave my grandpa a chance to get the shotgun they were using, and then shot it in the torso. Although this did not stop the beast, since it tried to bite my grandpa too. He was out of bullets, so he holds the shotgun like a baseball and hits the thing on its face multiple times. It then ran away wounded by the gunshot, giving a chance to my grandpa and great-grandpa to run away from the woods and get home as soon as possible. They lived near the forest, so they locked the doors and did not leave the house until it was 12 p.m. The monster never showed up again. As we return from the depths of the unknown, the lingering echoes of the imaginable horrors remind us of the darkest corners of fear. From ancient malevolence to indescribable creatures, we've explored a realm where nightmares take shape. As we re-enter the familiar, let those bone-chilling encounters remind us that true horror can dwell within the unseen. But either way, I do hope you enjoyed my narrations, and even if you didn't, I want to wish you a good rest of your day.